Welcome to We Are False. This is the show where we explore the stories that kind of go against the grain, the facts that challenge what you think you know. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most iconic moments in American history, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. You know the story, right? You can probably picture it in your head right now. That famous painting, all the founding fathers gathered in Philadelphia, quill pens in hand, defying an entire empire on one single historic day. It's a really powerful image. But here's the thing about that powerful image. It's basically a myth. The truth is, nobody, not a single person, actually signed the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. See, the real story is, well, it's a lot more complex. And honestly, it's way more interesting. It doesn't just happen on one day. It's a whole saga that unfolds across a month of debate, voting, and some seriously incredible risk. It's really a tale of three crucial dates. Those three dates are July 2nd, which was the day of the actual vote, July 4th, the day the words were approved, and August 2nd, the day the official signing finally happened. So, let's break down what really went up. So, the first, and you could argue the most decisive step, happened on July 2nd. This was the day the Second Continental Congress cast the legally binding vote that said, "These united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states." That was it. That was the official legal break from Great Britain. And hey, don't just take my word for it. John Adams, who was right in the middle of all of this, was totally convinced that this was the day we'd all be celebrating. He actually wrote to his wife, Abigail, and predicted future generations would honor July 2nd with parades and fireworks. You know, for a lawyer like Adams, the vote, the legal action, that was the real deal. Okay, so that brings us to the obvious question, right? If the legal break happened on the 2nd, then what's the big deal about the 4th? Simple. July 4th was all about the words. After they voted for independence, Congress spent the next 2 days just hammering out Thomas Jefferson's draft. They debated it, they made changes, and then finally, on the afternoon of the 4th, they formally adopted the final text. This was the moment they officially approved America's mission statement to the world. And this is where it gets interesting, because this actually created two very different versions of the document. On the night of July 4th, a printer named John Dunlap cranked out about 200 printed copies. We call them the Dunlap broadsides. Think of them like America's official birth announcements, rushed out to the colonies with only two names printed on them. The fancy, handwritten parchment copy we all picture in our heads, that wasn't even ordered until July 19th. And that brings us to our third and final date, August 2nd. This was the main event, at least when it comes to signing. This was the day that the official, engrossed on parchment copy was finally ready, and the day most of the delegates gathered to actually put their names on the document. And this is where the story shifts. It stops being about a legal process and starts being a story of immense personal danger. Because this wasn't a celebration. Make no mistake, this was an act of treason. And even that main event on August 2nd wasn't some neat and tidy ceremony. It was a staggered process. Sure, most of the 56 delegates signed that day, but others who were absent kind of trickled in and added their names over the next few weeks and months. In fact, the very last signer, a guy named Thomas McKeon, might not have even put his name on it until sometime in 1777. Let's just be crystal clear about what was on the line here. The word is treason. Betraying your country, your king. In the 18th century, the punishment for that wasn't a slap on the wrist. It was a gruesome public death. Every single man who put his name on that document was basically signing his own death warrant if the revolution failed. The sheer gravity of that moment is captured perfectly by this quote from Benjamin Franklin. He reportedly said, "We must all hang together, or, most assuredly, we shall all hang separately." And you know what? He wasn't joking. They knew their unity was the only thing standing between them and the gallows. In fact, and get this, the act was considered so incredibly dangerous that the names of the men who signed were kept secret from the public for over 6 months. They didn't release the fully signed document until January of 1777, only after the war had started to turn just a little bit in their favor, making it slightly less of an immediate death sentence. So, we've gone through the what, the when, and the who. But the most important question is probably, why? Why does getting the story right actually matter? I mean, if the big vote was on the 2nd and the big signing day was on August 2nd, is our entire national holiday just based on a mistake? Well, no, not at all. We celebrate July 4th because that's the day the idea of America was born. It's the day the country's mission statement, that incredible promise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, was finalized, adopted, and proclaimed to the world. We celebrate the birth of the American creed. And honestly, I think the real messy story is so much more impressive than the myth. Independence wasn't born in a single perfect moment. It was forged over weeks of tough debate, compromise, and disagreement. It reveals this long, drawn-out process of immense personal courage, not just a single brave act. It was a process, not a perfect photograph. And so, the true story leaves us with a more complicated, more human picture of our founding. It also forces us to confront the central, challenging question of the Declaration itself. I mean, it made this beautiful promise of equality. But in a nation that was built on slavery, who was that promise really for? That's a question America is still trying to answer.